Hi, I'm Dani Tan, and welcome back to the You're Overqualified podcast. A friendly reminder to you that you are surely overqualified at whatever it is that you do. The women that I work with are ambitious, driven, really motivated, and freaking awesome at what they do. And that doesn't mean that they don't question themselves sometimes. And sometimes we do. We think, oh, do I have the right certifications, qualifications, experience to do something? And I always want to remind you that yes, yes, you are, especially those of us who are questioning it. And so on this episode, I'm going to be talking about how to say no without blowing up your career, without blowing up anything in your face, because sometimes saying no can be super scary after saying yes for such a long time has been the norm and has gotten us a place of safety and comfort, right? It's the reason why we are amazing at what we do, but also now it's a kind of become this hindrance to where it is that we want to go. And so we'll break it down. But in case we haven't met yet, I'm Dani Tan. I'm a leadership coach and the founder of She Belongs Here, an organization that helps individuals, especially women, women of color, first and second gen, and organizations help women be able to create the space for them, be able to claim what it is that they need because the onus is not on us. My gosh, like everyone else, society, systems has to step up. And so that's what that's all about. And as well as empowering you to be resourced the way you'd like to be. So just some background on a little bit more on me. I pivoted careers 5 times: PR, sales, merchandising, e-commerce, entrepreneurship, you name it, all while achieving 11 promotions in 11 years. That's right. So from being a sample coordinator making 45K to being a VP making $250,000. And so what I know is one, how to get promoted, two, how to position yourself, and three, really how to build your expertise in what it is that you do. And so I absolutely loved building out teams when I worked in corporate, from building a team from 1 to 2 to 20 people to being able to hire, develop, and train. And I just found that really what it comes down to is if the system is not set up for us and we are not resourced, it's really hard to succeed, no matter how much you can over index, over prove, over execute, overdo. And so I left my corporate job to do this 100% full time because I have such a passion when it comes to resourcing women as well as organizations to really, really help us flourish. Because when we have a position of like power, when we have a position where we can help others, we do amazing, gosh darn things. Okay. So let's break it down in today's episode because I think saying no is not a natural thing for us. I think society and a lot of systems at play have conditioned us to say yes to many things, to be the caretaker, to be the one who gets all the other tasks, who can always handle everything, hold everything. And I don't think that is on us of like, why are we always saying yes? I think there are multiple factors to it. So I want to break it down to this episode. So I believe it was just last week. So what I do is if you are a current private coaching client or a past coaching client, what I do is I have workshops that I do either monthly or quarterly where I bring all my clients together just to do a workshop on a topic that has been coming up lately. And so when we have those, it's so much fun because even though you work with me one-on-one in private coaching, you get to meet past and current one-on-one clients come together. And it always blows my mind because anytime people join, they get to hear experiences from people from different industries, different backgrounds, and hear how, hey, wait a minute, we're all feeling the same thing in our spaces. And why is that? And also, how can we take action and change through it? And also to hear other people's experiences and how they have changed is always super impactful. And so I always think it's a beautiful thing to continue to do. And I will continue to do that for my clients because I'm so passionate about being able to serve and educate and learn. And so in the session that we did last week, we talked about how to say no without blowing up your career. And I'm going to give you some insights onto what we talked about across the group in general, because I think it's really important. So some of the things that I talked about how is saying yes all the time does not necessarily mean that you are a pushover or that it's all on you. A lot of the times it's hard when you are super driven, motivated, a high achiever. It can be really hard to say no. And the reason why, it's not because you do not want to say no. It's because yes has been rewarded so many times. You saying yes to everything has given you so much, positive confirmation with what it is that you're doing. And so saying no almost feels dangerous. Like, what if we'll undo all the things that you have built? What if saying no starts to take away the credibility that you built in your business, in your organization, with your boss, because you've been so used to saying yes and taking on all the projects. And so I would say within the workshop, the biggest thing that we talked about was one of my clients said, she was saying, I know I should say no. I just don't know how to do it without it costing me something. And I think that's the thing that people don't realize is that sometimes it feels like saying no is actually going to be dangerous in the sense of our careers, of our expertise, of our titles, of what it is that we're bringing into the table, because we've been so conditioned to say yes all the time. So I don't want to act like, just, put on your big girl pants and just say no and it's totally fine. No, that's not the truth. The truth is that depending on your background, your lived experience, it can be very scary to feel like you're risking your almost, it feels like your livelihood by saying no or questioning something or challenging something when that has not necessarily been a space of safety for you. And so that's what we talked about within this session is, we had an example of one client who was talking about there's one department who's trying to basically offload all of their work onto her department, which are not her roles and responsibilities. We have another client who has the same exact issue where there's an executive who's trying to offload things from one team to her team. And so, okay, it's actually not even in my roles and responsibilities. How do I do that? Well, I have another client who is dealing with the fact of just saying no from how much workload is being put on her, right? And being able to figure that out when it's like, wait, that's the CEO. Like, what do I do at that point? And so we talked about my 3-part framework when it comes to saying no's. I call it the 3 no's. So the 3 ways to say no in order to feel more comfortable in that space of saying no and knowing that it's for a business decision. It doesn't have to be emotional if we don't want it to be. It can be very like tactical and data driven if that helps us, especially in the business world when it comes to creating safety for us. And so that's what I'm going to break down in today's session. And I would just say a lot of the feedback from this workshop was like, wow, as a woman, I don't really feel comfortable saying no, or as a woman of color, or as a woman who's first gen in the sense to graduate college in your immediate family, or first in the sense to be born in the United States, where the safety has been around saying yes to be a part of, this space and to assimilate and to see what our parents have sacrificed for. To understand was part one is like why we can't say no, like why it feels difficult is because we have been trained, conditioned that that's what actually got us into our jobs, what's got us into the room, what got us to our level. And so being known as reliable and saying yes is that reason why we have a hard time shifting to starting to say no. But the thing that I want you to understand is never saying no actually reads as, okay, you're just in execution mode then. So when you're somebody who always says yes to everything, you have this like label almost. Susie is just for execution. She can get things done. We can give it to her and she'll take care of it. But where is the vision of the strategy for yourself and the priorities for you if you're always saying yes? No is not the opposite of ambition. No is not the opposite of ambition. You can say no. No is what ambition looks like when you have a strategy. Okay. Okay, so now I want to talk about the 3 different no's because the thing is that I want you to think about your capacity strategically. And I want to talk about what these 3 no's mean and what to say in these situations and how to hold your position, especially when somebody is pushing back. So here are the 3 different types of no's. There's the hard no, the redirect, and then there's the negotiated no. All right. So let's go ahead and break it down. So the hard no is you're just saying it directly. You're not bearing the lead. It is one reason. You do not give 3 reasons. You stop talking in silence. It's okay. I'm not going to be able to take that on right now. I'm at my capacity and I want to make sure I'm focusing my work on insert what it is that you're working on. So it's just the hard no. This one feels like the hardest one for us to kind of jump to. So here are 2 other ones you can potentially work on, which is the redirect. Acknowledging the need and then declining your involvement very clearly. So naming up a specific alternative. So giving them a solution with it. I can't take that on, but, and then you name the resource or the person who could potentially be a strong fit for it. So, thank you for thinking of me, but I'm actually not able to take that on right now. So and so, or this resource could potentially help you and be a better fit. That's the redirect. The second, so essentially you're giving a solution, you're redirecting this energy towards something else. The negotiated no is a couple of breakdowns. First, you name what you can't do, right? And then you offer a modified version of it and give the decision back to them. So this is what you would think about. If they ask you to work on some big project that has 5 pieces or 5 phases towards it, and has a week deadline, you could give them a modified version and say, I actually can't work on this project in the course of the next week, all 5 phases, but I can help you with phase 1 and 2. How does that feel? And now you're giving a negotiated no if there are some things you can take on. Now, the thing that I want you to think about is this, is across, does it not matter your industry, your role, it does not matter, the ones that trip people up are the following is it can be really difficult if someone in authority adds something to your plate or a colleague keeps asking you to cover for them, or someone follows up even though you've already said no, or work lands on you that isn't your own. So this is what I want you to think about. If a colleague keeps asking you to cover something, that is no longer a favor, that is now a pattern. And it could feel really uncomfortable if it is like a partner or a manager or a board member who's asking you to do something. So the things that I want you to think about in these situations are the following. So make the move. The move is to make your trade-off visible, not just absorb. So name what you're working on, name the trade plainly, and then ask them to make the call. So for example, if they ask you to work on something, hey, right now I'm focusing on 1 and 2. These are the things that are being prioritized for this deadline. asked by so and so. If I take this on, what would you like me to deprioritize? That is the trade off, right? Another way to look at this is the one time is fine, but the pattern needs a direct conversation is that colleague that's always asking you to do something. If Sally is always asking you to do her slides in the presentation deck and it hasn't just been once, but it's been multiple times, then the first thing is to decline the ask. So just be brief and direct and don't over explain. And then name the pattern that repeats it. And so this is what you would say is like, hey, actually, I can't do that. I've noticed that every single time we have this month end reporting that you asked me to do the slides, I'm not in a position to take this on continually. What would be a good solution for long term since I've been doing this already for, the past few weeks. And if you want to say it one more time in a even softer way while you work your way up to saying no is, hey, I actually can't do this time. I have noticed in the last few months though, at the end of the month, you're asking me to take on those slides and I can't actually sustain this for the long term. So let's look at a solution of who's going to be owning this for the long term. So again, it's being able to say like no respectfully, but also noticing that there's a pattern and something that's not your responsibility, and then offering up, okay, who can be taking this on long term? This is one of the ones we used for a couple of my clients where they had different departments putting work on them. They were saying, actually, I can't take this on, and I recommend that you probably find somebody else who can take it on long term. And then the first thing I would say is like catch it before you're just in the depths of it working on it like the whole time. So pause before you dive in. This is the most important piece. Whenever we're asked to work on a project, help out with something, we go and jump in and say yes right away. We also don't have to jump in and say no right away. This is so important just to pause. And it's okay to also say, you know what? Let me think about it. I just want to double check to see like what my deadlines are and what I have on my priority list right now. That's okay to do, and then to come back and to look at it. Okay. I feel like sometimes we feel like we have to give an answer in real time right now, and we actually don't have to. So I want you to think about, okay, how can I catch it before I'm in the thick of this project, and then be able to make sure that it's aligned for you, right? That way you're checking and seeing, is this something that I can take on? And if it is this even aligned with what I want to be doing? And if not, how can I help them find the right owner, right? The thing is, when it comes to somebody who won't take no for an answer, let's say like deep cleansing breath for this one. When somebody keeps pushing back, here's a couple ways that you can address them continually pushing back. The first one is, I hear you, and my answer is still no. I'd rather be upfront and give you like a definite answer on something that I can't deliver on. Another pushback would be, yes, I have thought about it and I'm not in a position to change my answer. Another one is, if it keeps continuing, hey, I feel like I've been pretty clear that I can't do this. I need us to move forward from that. And so these are different ways that you can say no. I've also said, no response is a response. So if somebody keeps pushing, like no response is a response. And we were talking about this in the group on the call the other week. And I had said one of the craziest things that I found out when I was in corporate was there were a lot of guys who would not be in like the weeds of these projects. And people would be like pinging them, sending them emails, tagging them, and they just like wouldn't respond. And one time I asked one of them, I was like, hey, like, how do you not get stuck on some of these things? Or like someone responds to you and like you just don't get pulled into this project the same depths as everyone else. And they said, I just don't respond. And I said, okay, well, then what happens? Well, if it's important enough, they'll keep following up and it'll get escalated and then I'll do it. And I was like, wow. So not saying that we should like all live by that and that we're allowed to live all by that. But I think if somebody continues to push, like I gave you 3 different ways to essentially hold your own, but also no response also is a response. I have another client, we started working together. She got promoted within 3 months. And then she's, working with her manager. Her manager is a little bit of a micromanager, comes from a place of caring and a little bit of stress and anxiety. But she will sometimes micromanage and get in the weeds. And so the biggest thing that I told her was that you can either like get in the kiddie pool with her and sort of splash her around, or you can just hold your own and say like, yeah, everything's fine. Like everything's okay. Just stand up. And so, now when she is getting like the myriad of messages on Slack, she's like, yeah, I've told her like, don't go in and start replying immediately because you're giving her instant gratification, all these like hits of dopamine that every time she messages you, you're going to message her back right away. You're positively reinforcing that behavior. So to actually slow down your responses, and you batch when you want those responses to go out. Are you getting your work done? Is it getting done well? Is there any issues? No? Well, then you can do that, right? It's a different thing if you're not performing, but my clients perform. So there's that. So now she's like, yeah, now I will wait to the end of the day and I'll respond when I want to respond. Some of them just get a check mark to show that I've reviewed it, or that, a thumbs up that I've done it, and some will get a response. Yeah. If we are going to match the energy of somebody who is not managing their energy well, it's not going to go over well. So Just things to think about and consider when it comes to saying no in a way that's not going to blow up your career. And the thing that's crazy is that it has not blown up these women's careers. Like it's made them stronger because now they're not burnt out, overrun, trying to manage everyone's projects and energy. I have another client who we worked together, I think it was about like a year or 2 years ago, and she works in the nonprofit space. And she had just been promoted to the first time being a people manager. Her manager, he was very much a micromanager, was messaging and slacking all the time, all different times of the day. And if you're not like, what is Slack? Just think of it like being text messaged all the time. Or if you have Microsoft Teams, it's like that. And she was just like, I don't know what to do. Like, I'm always tired. I'm always burnt out. Like, he's messaging here, here, here. And I was like, and she's like, I'm trying to help the team and have the team not be on all the time. And I'm like, well, you have to model what it is that you want for your team. So if he's messaging, you have to one set the expectation with him and communicate it in a meeting one on one. Even though it feels difficult to be direct, it's not. Does not mean you're difficult. It can be difficult for us to express the directness, but it actually sets expectations. A lot of the times we're thinking in our heads, how come our managers don't understand? And they don't understand because they're doing things their way. And so for them to know what we need for us to be successful, we have to communicate it. And so she had that one-on-one with him, set the expectation so that he understood. Okay, you don't have to respond outside of those hours. It's okay. Just get back to me when you get back to me. So then our first thing was setting up, time guardrails around when she would be in their messaging. She did that. Things became easier for her. She modeled it for her team. Her team was able to execute that, and things have been better ever since. Now she's able to take time off, be with her family. She's able to travel and visit her nieces. So, these are things that have helped her. And here's the crazy thing. Her company went off multiple layoffs since the time we worked together till now, probably, I don't know, 2, 3 layoffs, and she has remained. So even with her creating the balance and saying no, it did not mean that she wasn't good at what she did. It actually meant that she was being really smart with her time. And so was her team. And so just want to emphasize again how a lot of the times we feel like that's going to like rock the boat for our careers. In reality, no, it just shows that we're really smart with what kind of work that we're doing, that we don't say yes to everything. Right. I don't want to be the dumpster of tasks. I don't want that to be a reputation for me that I can take everything on. I'd rather be known as the expert who is going to be working on things that are really going to move the needle forward. And that when you know what's going to be important task wise for you to focus on. And if somebody's trying to offload something to you, do you think it's because it's a value? So being able to discern that is going to be really important when you're going into that part of your career. And a lot of the times we're in a transition phase. So a lot of the clients that I work with are transitioning in the sense of they were the doer, executor, go-to person for everything. And they are transitioning into either like a subject matter expert, a first-time people manager, a more seasoned leader. And when they're doing that transition, they're like always like, wait a minute, Dani, like this seems like common sense, but it's actually not, of the things that I have to start shifting when it comes to how I manage my time. How do I prioritize? How do I have strategic visibility with the right types of leadership? What kind of projects that I'm working on? And it's like, yeah, because nobody talks about that, right? And that's completely, I don't want to know if the word is gatekept or whatever, but it's just not spoken about. And so even for myself, when I was in those spaces, it took me a minute to figure that out, right? I was like one of the youngest, only women, especially women of color, in a leadership position in a giant organization, and multiple organizations that would come up, right? So the thing is that I have spent enough time experiencing it and studying it and coaching on it to tell you what are the steps that are needed to make it happen. And so I don't want you to sleep on that whatsoever and make your life difficult, because we already have enough things against us at times when it comes to society and systems. And so know that I'm here for you, and hopefully you found this helpful. And if you're wondering what it's like to work together, go to the show notes and you're going to see in there, it says book a discovery call. There's a link there. Go ahead, click on that and book a call with me. The call is for 60 minutes. And there's a reason why. It's because we're carving out intentionality when it comes to what it's like to work together. You're going to get an intake form with a couple of questions. It'll open up a Calendly link where you can go ahead and find some time for us to meet. And on the 60 minutes, what we do is we review for the first half hour. What are your goals? What are your current challenges? What have you done already? Where you kind of struggle or need support? And then based off that, I give you a custom coaching plan based off of you, where you're currently at, where you need support, maybe where you're struggling, based off of maybe your leadership team, your organization, and where it is that you're trying to achieve. And that custom plan will help inform what it's like to work together. And then we'll talk about what that experience is like. And once we get started, you go ahead and you fill out your intake form. You get your welcome email. On your intake form, it's going to ask you like, how do you like to learn? How do you like to be supported? What are anything that's kind of been like troubling you that you want to communicate that may affect coaching? All those things, you dive in there. And then on our first call, we're going through and walking through what the next 3 to 6 months will look like working together, with like your plan, with your action items. Like, I am not, I always have told this, I'm not just facts and I'm not just feelings. I'm a mixture of both. And so there will always be action in there. And so then you'll be able to know after every single session, you're going to have action items and takeaways of what to work on. And outside of those biweekly calls that are about 45 to 60 minutes, you'll also get access to Slack. So if you're like, what is Slack? Slack is like Microsoft Teams or like WhatsApp or like text message. And so what we do is you basically have me on retainer. So from the moment that you enroll to the moment that we close out, you can send me voice notes, you can send me text messages, you can send me links, you can send me documents to review in the course of our time working together. I respond typically 1 to 2 business days, and my clients will send me stuff like their performance evals. They will send me offer letters that they want to negotiate. They will send me their, their team layout on how to better influence and strategize with them. They'll send me decks, they'll send me their proposals. All those things will go in there and we review it even between sessions. So a lot of the times my clients have like hyper speed results just because they utilize that a lot, and it ends up being like the sleeper feature within our package of working together, which is always super fun for folks. But I mean, I would just say if you have been noodling that you want to be able to feel more in control of your career, be able to comfortably say no and be seen as more strategic and be visible in a way that makes sense for you, right? And not to have a dumpster fire of projects being thrown on you, book a call. Like literally talking together is just being able to meet and connect and talk about what it is that you want to do. And that is the first step of change. If you've been doing the same thing over and over again and nothing has changed, that is just a pattern that's living on a loop. And you need to change it up and shake it up. And the best way to do that is to book a call with me to talk about what it's like to work together and what it is that you want for yourself, right? And to be able to say no in a way that feels good to you and that serves you, because every time you say no, you're saying yes to yourself. And who doesn't want to do that? Right? So go ahead, go in the show notes, book a discovery call with me, and I cannot wait to meet you. All right. Talk to you soon. Have a good one.